Okay, I think that's better. So you cannot see someone behind me. Mm, Okay. So, everyone, I'm gonna start with asking, how are you? You all great?
Alhamdulillah, ma'am.
Alhamdulillah.
I'm
Ima,
great, ma'am.
Rizal. Um,
Great, ma'am.
okay. I,
Awesome.
I see some unpopular name in this class, like there's Tegar Erdianto. Can I hear your voice, Mr. Tegar? Hello? Tegar, you with me? Okay, never mind. Let me share screen for a moment. Okay, so here would be our learning planning for this semester. We will learn some materials about the legal contract, what is legal contract, and what are the things that we're going to discuss in this material. But um, I'm sorry that this material is written in Bahasa. I'm trying my best to translate when I explain this material because I don't have the the syllabi in English. I hope that's okay. So yeah, this course, we're going to learn about the legal relationship between uh, parties in certain contract, in certain agreement. What is the legal relationship, and how this kind of legal relationship can bear rights and obligation of the parties. And then we'd like to learn about individual agreement, individual obligation. So perikatan in English is an obligation. And then we'd like to learn about the sell and purchase. We're going to learn something more specific about some types of agreements. So we're going to learn about like sell and purchase, and then a leasing agreement, and then a grant, and so on and so forth. And I will try my best so that you guys can have an insight of more um, English approach agreement. So if it's a course in Bahasa, uh, the students probably should make certain kind of agreement in a certain types, but it shall be written in Bahasa. But if it's in English, then I would like to ask you to make an agreement in English, and then so because of it's written in English, so probably the parties would be an interstate party, like someone in Indonesia having or enter into agreement with someone from abroad, like like for example from Singapore or whatever. Of course, it's usually related um, to export or import things and whatever. So yeah, those are the things that we're going to learn, and this gonna be the more detailed explanation and more detailed distribution of material. So first thing first, today's meeting we'll just discuss something which is very light, very so initial, so early, we're talking about introduction, we're talking about what is agreement, what is legal contract, and what is an individual agreement, what is a public agreement, and so on. So it's just a um, very initial, very early uh, discussion. And then next in the next meeting, because this is the first meeting, yeah, even though this is already the second week, because yes, last week we have uh, read soon. I believe it was Isra Mi'raj, yeah. So yeah, so this is gonna be our first meeting, and then the next meeting we're going to learn more detail about some types of legal contract. We're going to learn about franchise and um, it's leasing ventura. It's more like a finance agreement, perjanjian pembiayaan, and then we learn about um, the concept of legal contract. So it's probably if you already learned something about obligation law or probably agreement law. So this is just a recall of that. And then we learn about e-commerce. Of course, it's very a hot issue in recent era. And we learn about the facilities of a certain website and yeah, so everything about e-commerce, e-business, e-banking, those are business which is conducted using an electronic method. And then Islamic contract, yeah, so we also discuss about Islamic contract. Probably, well, it's actually there are so many discussion if we're talking about Islamic contract. I don't know whether only one meeting is enough to talk about Islamic contract. And then we learn about international business contract. Yeah, this is so important for you guys as an international program students, because I hope that this is gonna be um, your initial material that you can open your path in the future. And then we learn about the breach of contract. What is a breach of contract? Yeah, again, and alternative dispute resolution, but it is specifically only for something related to a legal contract, because we have discussed this in our previous semester, but today in this legal contract class, it's going to be a wrap up of legal contract. And the last one, it's a presentation. I believe that this probably will not become a very strict planning for our study. Probably the presentation would be not in a very last meeting, probably in the middle of our semester. But yeah, that's the thing that I need you guys to make a presentation one day. So yeah, those are some materials, and we also will discuss. Okay, this one is some references. The references is in Bahasa, but I believe that there are um, some books written in English talking about the contract in general, especially relating to international contract. But if it's in Indonesian legal contract, um, it's a bit rare to find the sources in English for that. So I see that Adelson find out. Sorry, let me reply Adelson at the moment. Is he here already? He's not here, right? Okay, he's just texting
Not
me.
yet, ma'am.
He's not in our group, isn't he? Oh, he's in our group. So he can just, yeah. Okay. I asked some of you to be the co-host. So if he try to enter the room, please just uh oh please just admit him. And yeah, let's come back to this. So you can still see my word shared view, yeah. You can still this, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
there are some reference if you wanna read the Bahasa references, so you can find out this. There are some other books which is way more practical, like really on how to make the contract, because that's the most important, rather than in other than other than some theoretical framework of the contract. And then and then I'm sorry, for someone who are having the MBKM, is not only Yuli Ambarwati, isn't it? Is there any other else, if I may know? It's Fadel, isn't it? Are you also joining the Fadel? Can I hear your voice? Okay, he's not here. Okay, so yeah, for Fadel and Amber, both of you, I heard an information that both of you are participating in Merdeka Belajar, um, Merdeka Belajar class in other universities, so probably they cannot join our synchronized study. So yeah. Mm, okay, let's come back to this. Now for other than references, so this is gonna be our, oh no, our evaluation aspects is not this one. So we will see our evaluation aspects as, let me see for a moment. It's gonna be the same with um, it's gonna be the same with our previous class in advocacy and in investigation, which is we will have, where is it? Okay, never mind. I'm just gonna write it down. So in the final semester, we're going to have a 35%, 35%, and in the mid semester it's, oh yeah, 30, 20, and we will have one more. It's attendance is 5%. Yeah, it's assignment 20%. Your, you know, your attitude and your I don't know, keaktifan, your, like when you show the spirit to join this class, to participate in this class. So it's gonna be like 10% to support your final grade, and the mid exam would be 30% and final exam would be 35%. So this is gonna be our components of um, exam, our evaluation. Is that okay, guys? We're
It's
going to
okay
have
for
this.
me, ma'am.
Okay.
No
Yeah,
problem,
ma'am.
ma'am.
for attendance, I still give it like 5% because you guys still have to fill your presence list. It's just the same with the other class. Probably some of you do not understand on how to fill the presence. So I'm going to show you that in our in your now you can see in your group description I already share the link of a Google form to for you guys to fill your attendance. So you can just click you can see my WhatsApp, yeah. You can just click this and then voila, you can fill it. uh, and this one you should fill your student number, and your student number must be correct because if it's not correct, okay, I'm gonna put just a random, okay, yeah, so you should be correct. If not, it's gonna be like this. It means that you are not in the class. Probably you are wrong. Or if it's also your numbers is already 10 numbers, but your student number is not correct, so this Google form would not gonna read your attendance. And then your name, please fill your name, like I don't know, it's Yusril, yeah. So you can fill it, and the date of our class, it's 18th March, so you should fill it 18. And you guys need to be very careful to fill this, because if you guys do something wrong to fill this, your attendance would not gonna be recorded automatically. So please very careful for this. And then attendance, you should fill it presence, and then proof of presence. It could be screenshot. If you're having a virtual meeting like this, you can upload this Zoom meeting, or if you don't have a Zoom meeting, you can upload the screenshot in our WhatsApp or whatever, which is showing that you guys are in this class. So I'm gonna choose a random picture just to make an example, so it's okay. I'm gonna choose a random picture. Okay. Okay, upload. Okay, if you guys already upload, then you should send. If you don't send this, so your presence is not gonna be recorded. And after you fill it and you want to see whether your attendance is already recorded or not, so you can click this attendance checks. Click it and you will see this. Voila. It's not recorded yet because I haven't put the date here. If I already put the date 18 March, so it's automatically user would be present here. So yeah, that's how you guys having a presence list. Is there any questions for this?
Mom. May I ask something?
Yeah, please.
If I learning by watching YouTube based on this link, so what's my screenshot? Because
Oh,
I don't.
you can just screenshot the WhatsApp. It's okay.
Oh,
Never mind.
okay,
Yeah, it's
ma'am.
okay. Thank you. Yeah. Oh yeah. There's one thing that we also need to discuss. Yeah, about. So we already discussed about the presence list, and I believe that there's no question, yeah, for how to fill the form, or any question before we move. Any question to in regards about filling the form? No.
No, ma'am, for me.
This is clear, ma'am. I
Okay.
think.
If no question, we also need to discuss on how we're going to have this class, like the method. We probably will have some synchronous learning method. So we will have a virtual meeting like this. But at some point, uh, probably you guys want to make it, um, at some meeting we're not in synchronous method. So probably discussion with WhatsApp, or yeah, as just previous classes. So how do you say, how many percent or how many meetings you guys want to make a synchronous method like this, or how many percent you guys prefer for us to having an asynchronous? Can anyone please give me an insight? I believe that in other classes there are some students as like 50-50, so 50% synchronous and 50% asynchronous, and some other also asking for less synchronous method because their places are not well enough, their signal in their area are not well enough, so it's very hard for them to have a synchronous method like this. But some other wants to make it like 100% synchronous virtual meeting. So it's we I want to make it as a part of agreement, so it's not only me who decide. So I want you guys to decide as well. What do you think? Any insights? Like, yes,
For me, I'm agree if we using the synchronous at least 50%,
50, yeah.
at least 50% for the minimum. So asynchronous it could be up to 50 hours as well, but
Like this.
depending on you.
Okay. Okay, like this, yeah. Yeah. I think this gonna be fun too, because I'm planning like probably you guys would have like a group assignment, which I'll make it like a breakout rooms, and you guys can discuss about how to make a legal contract. Yeah, I'm planning such kind of things, so I'm very good with this. 50% synchronous. What say you guys? The other of you. You guys agree with result? This one?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
For
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am,
let's
for
make a deal,
you.
yeah? Okay. Oh, voila. Thank you. So yeah, here is our agreement. And lastly, in this class, who wants to be the leader? Who wants to be the chief of this class? I I already have Melly in advocacy and investigation class. Am I right? It's Melly, right?
Oh, ma'am. Ambar.
Oh yeah, it's Amber. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Sorry,
Ambar.
Amber. I'm sorry. So who is gonna be the leader of the class? No one? Do you want me to choose?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Really? You don't want to volunteer yourself? Just like Katniss Everdeen? Um, can I ask Krishna to be the leader of this class?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Krishna. Thank you. So it's official. Your leader in this class is Krishna. Okay. Just for the last thing I want to share, this one. So if you guys already fill the Google form, it will automatically shown in this link in the previous link that I showed you. So yeah, please don't forget to fill the Google form link from. I will open the Google form link from 10 a.m. GMT plus 7, of course, in waktu Indonesia Barat until 7 p.m. So 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So it's already 12 hours, and that is very tolerance, I believe. So yeah. Okay, no more questions for our introduction. You have no questions? Okay, if you guys have no questions, now let's move to our discussion. Actually, I haven't make any material just like the other class, but I want to make it a discussion like when we are having an offline class, then I have a whiteboard so I can write it down in my whiteboard. So I'm gonna just share the blank PowerPoint. Yeah, okay. So you can see my blank PowerPoint, yeah. Okay. So the first thing to discuss about this material is, wait a minute. Okay, the first thing to discuss is about obligation. Obligation law. Do you know what obligation law is? Or so there is this term obligation, and there's also agreement. Can anyone explain what is obligation and what is agreement? And there's also this term contract. Can anyone explain what is it? What are those? You can see my blank my PowerPoint kan ya? What,
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
what do
Can.
you see is my PowerPoint, right? Okay. So please, can anyone explain what is obligation, what is agreement, and what is contract? No? Anyone? Do you know what obligation in Bahasa? Do you know what obligation in Bahasa? What is it?
Kewajiban.
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 Do you know any other term of obligation selain other
Bonds.
than kewajiban?
Bonds.
Bonds?
Surat hutang, ma'am.
No. Any other? Any other things? Any other insights?
Keharusan, kesepakatan, ma'am.
Keharusan, kesepakatan. What else? Any other? What else? Do you know? No? Okay. Have you ever heard about perikatan?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever heard this term, perikatan? Perikatan in Bahasa is a translation of obligation when we're talking about legal term. So perikatan is obligation in some legal term, and it is used in some legal legal approach, legal text, or probably legal contract. So that's why it is called as obligation law, as a translation of hukum perikatan. Guys, would you mind if I hang up my if I answer my phone for a moment, please?
No problem,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Take your
Please,
time.
ma'am.
No problem, ma'am.
Hello guys, I'm back. I'm sorry because I'm waiting for my turn to enter the courtroom. So yeah, come back. Perikatan is obligation. So that's why there is a term of obligation law, which in Dutch term, I believe it is called as verbintenis. Have you guys ever heard about it? There's this term in Dutch, and there's also the term um, like this one. So some expert trying to translate this as a perikatan and this one as perjanjian. So that's why we have some different terms as obligation, as perikatan, and agreement as perjanjian, and contract as kontrak in bahasa. So my question is, what is the difference between these three? What is the difference between perikatan in bahasa and perjanjian and contract? Can anyone explain me what is it? Any sites? Anyone wants to give an insight?
All
So
right,
be-
ma'am. I'm going to obligation.
Oh yeah, please. What is it? Please add.
Yes, obligation is a relationship one to another.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, is to be torn and gone to their reform
Mm-hmm.
imposed from the acted at the obligation to impose the obligate that they perform and the simulation creates and compose rights, how they maintain rights and the rights of obligate. I mean the relationship one to another created the act about that some people be agree or not agree.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're saying that obligation basically is a legal relationship, is a legal
Yes,
relation.
is a legal relationship.
Okay,
Uh,
and then
confirm about the one party and those of party. I mean
okay,
that we should be going to the country and one those the country.
okay, this is a legal relationship. And then what is the consequence of this legal relationship? What do you think? So you say that obligation is a legal relationship between two
Yes.
parties or more, between two parties or more. And then what is the consequence of this legal relationship? What do you think? The legal consequence. What do you think? So the legal consequence, so this one is between two parties or more, which cause the consequence of rights and duties of the parties. Consequence of so yeah, the legal relationship between two or more parties, two parties or more, which cause a consequence obligation of an obligation of parties to fulfill the rights and duties. So this is basically what obligation means. It is a legal relationship. It is a legal relationship. But if you discuss further what is legal relationship, there are two kinds of legal relationship. First one is a legal relationship um, which is caused by agreement, and legal relationship which is born by the law. So there are two kind of legal relationship. Okay. An agreement. What is agreement? So you already know obligation is legal relationship, and somehow obligation can born from an agreement and can born from the law. So agreement should be one of the source of a legal relationship of an obligation. So agreement should be one of the kinds that can give or that can bear an obligation of the parties. Perikatan terhadap para pihak, right? So agreement itself is you know, a legal phenomenon, a legal activity, a legal activity of someone who promised to the other parties, of certain things, of certain matters of promise. This is the definition in our civil code. An activity of someone who promise certain matters to other parties. This is the definition in our civil code, which this definition is somehow creates so many critics, because if we're talking about agreements, that there must be more than two or at least two parties, right? So it cannot be only one party who promised to the other party. It's supposed to be both parties promising each other, because the point of agreement should be a mutual agreement between one and another party. So yeah, but this one is the definition in our civil code. And we have term contract. Some experts trying to define contract as an agreement which is in written form, because if we see in our civil code, in Indonesian civil code, an agreement, the legal requirements, do you remember, guys, article 1312, article 1312 of civil code, Indonesian civil code? It's the legal
Requirement. Yeah.
requirements of agreements. There are 4. Please find it out. There are 4 legal requirements of agreement, 4 basic legal requirements. The first one is mutual consent. In bahasa, it's kesepakatan para pihak. The second one is the capability of the parties, like they are, you know, have a legal capacity. It's capacity. Legal capacity to enter into agreement, like when the parties should be already a mature, already an adult, like having 21 years old age. Yeah, it's capacity. And then we also have the third one, which is subject clause. In the term in English is subject clause, but if you use the term in bahasa, it's object. Yeah, so subject clause is actually an object in bahasa. Jadi maksudnya objek perikatan. Okay, and then the fourth one is legal cause, causa yang halal, like it is allowed by the law and so on. Yeah, so you can see that there is no requirements of the agreement to be written, right? There is no requirement of an agreement to be in written form. So if you guys having an agreement which already fulfill these four requirements, but they are not in written form, that's supposed to be legal, and your agreement is supposed to be having a legal force, a legal binding, right? Because it's already fulfilling the four legal requirements which is set by Article 3020 of Civil Code. So that's why a certain contract, certain agreement shall not be legally bound to be in a written form. Now, the relation to we're talking about contract. The contract is, some experts says that this is an agreement in the written form. Okay. So yeah, contract is an agreement which is in written form. So can you get it now? Can you get
Yes,
some terms like obligation, agreement, contract? So what is the relation of we're just discussing this to our material legal contract? What do you think? What is the relation where we're discussing about these terms to our course? What do you think? Can you hear
ma'am.
the voice of someone asking, someone calling? Yeah, can you hear it? Yeah, yeah. That's the situation in religious court, in whatever court. Usually in a religious court. Yeah. So back again. Can you make a relation of we're discussing this term to our course material? What do you think?
Mom,
Yeah.
for me, like contract, like agreement, it is part of the obligation in the term of legal relationship. So it is for me this is for correct directed with the obligation law. Uh, like you say that agreement contract. For me, the agreement and contract is part of obligation law. So it is. I think it is so directed with the subject in this mean
Okay,
for
I
me.
get it. Okay, I get your point. So agreement and contract is a part discussion of when we're talking about obligation law. Yeah, at some point I agree with you. Yeah, and some university they tend to use obligation law rather than agreement law. Jadi they tend to use hukum perikatan rather than hukum perjanjian because obligation law is broader. We're talking about a very broad branch of law. We're talking about the legal relationship, which is the legal relationship could born by not only agreement. But if we're talking about contract, so it's very limited to, yeah, we're talking about contract. What is contract? We already discussed what is contract, and then we're going to talk about more on how to make contract and what is the consequence of a certain article in a contract, and probably it involves some discussion of negotiation in forming a contract, because contract is about how the parties pour uh, their their plan, their insights about a certain uh, business, probably a business, a relation, and then they put it down in a written form. So that's contract. Contract is all about the things that you want, what do you want to do, and what do you want the other parties to do. So it involves a lot about negotiation, of course. So yeah, that's thank you, Rizal. That's the thing. But now, in the term in Bahasa as well, you will see that this term, like so perikatan perorangan is I believe, yeah, it's perikatan. It's using perikatan, ya. Perikatan perorangan is individual. And this one is public. But I'm gonna put this so you guys won't be misunderstood by obligation as kewajiban. So in this context, we're going to talk about individual perikatan perorangan as part of agreement, which is formed by an agreement, and public obligation or public agreement as part of the perikatan publik. So what do you think? What's the difference between perikatan perorangan and perikatan publik? The main difference of both is actually on the status of the parties. Do you guys ever heard about the pengadaan barang dan jasa? It's in bahasa, ya. Have you ever heard about this pengadaan barang dan jasa, like goods and services agreement between government body, between government institution to some private business institution? Have you ever heard about it? Like
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
yeah. So
Like
it's actually
tender.
part of an agreement which is it's an agreement of the parties of a public institution to the private one, about on how to build, probably, yeah, let's say, for instance, like on how to for them to provide or to buy something or to build something, facilities, which is related to public facilities, of course. So at some point, this kind of agreement should be part of a public agreement, which is it involves the parties of a public institution, because the agreement itself should be the aims of this agreement itself is, of course, for the public interest. But when this public institution, government body, of course, government body try to enter into an agreement, a certain agreement, it's supposed to be part of the they are, this governed body are agree to enter and to subject to these private law. So if we're talking about governed body, of course they are part of public law, right? They are part of public law. But at some point, when this governed body enter into a private agreement, into a certain agreement, let's say, for instance, this good and services agreement, they are agreed to, subject to the private law, which is one of them is a civil code. But at some point, there are some legal requirements, and additional legal requirements, of course, because it involves a public institution and involve public interest in it. So that's why at some point there are so many cases involving public or legal authority when it comes to an agreement made by the legal institution. You can see there are so many cases of pengadaan barang dan jasa in a corruption case, or probably in, yeah, mostly in corruption, in bribery, and so on. So that's why at some point it is involving still a public interest in it. But the difference between both is that individual agreement, yeah, it's just agreement of a private individual, which is, yeah, any individual. Of course, like probably me and Sakti, we're having an agreement, so that's supposed to be an individual agreement. And if we're having a dispute, so we can go to the court to settle our dispute, or we can do any other alternative dispute resolution. So
So
just,
you
yeah,
mean, ma'am,
yeah,
you
yeah,
mean
please.
that individual obligation is a one person interest?
Yeah, of course, it's a private interest. If it's individual, not one, but the parties. I mean, the
So
parties, limited to only a
any
private interest.
any person interest, sorry, any person
Yeah,
interest.
any person interest. Any person who are the parties of the agreement, of course.
Who's going to get the agreement as an interest by the only person?
Like, do you mean like any other person other than the parties of the agreement?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very it's actually possible. It's actually possible. And the term in Bahasa, also known as, I believe it's derdenvaarset. Okay, let me, in Indonesian legal system, there's also such kind of you know, agreement, which is also relating to the third party, that the agreement is actually made on behalf, not on behalf, on the merits, of the third party, which is in Bahasa, it is also called as, sorry, in the Dutch term is called as verdenvatting. This is when a certain agreement also binds to the third party. Basically, an agreement. Basically, an agreement is binding to just the parties. And when I say it's binding, it means that because this agreement is made on the interest of the parties only. Like when you make an agreement, enter into an agreement with bank, like you open a bank account in a certain bank, it means that you make an agreement of you deposit some amount of money to the bank, and the bank can do whatever bank's business to from your money, right? That's an agreement, and that's um, only involving the interest of banks and your interest as the customer. So basically, this is the principle. But there are some exception when it involves, when your agreement involves the third party to be bound to your agreement. And this is a very special case. And let's say, um, let's say me and Sakti, we're having a loan agreement. So I borrow some amount of money to Sakti, and then I should pay uh, at tomorrow. But then Sakti says, "Oh, you can pay your debt to my sister." So in this case, the agreement is only between me and Sakti, but her sister is then bound to our agreement because I have to pay to Sakti's sister. If I don't pay to Sakti's sister, it means that I already breached the obligation, the agreement. So that's my explanation, Adelson. I hope that it can answer your question.
Yes,
Maaf,
it's answering.
Ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm still confused about perikatan publik. Could you repeat your explanation?
Okay. What makes perikatan individual with perikatan public is parties who are in the agreement. If it's a public obligation or public agreement, so it involves public institution and public, of course, public institution and public, public body or government body. When you say it, a public institution, it is a government body, of course, because that is the institution for a public, for a public interest, right? So yeah, because like when I give an example of pengadaan barang dan jasa, it is one of the example on when government body enter into a private agreement to the to us. Yeah, it is an agreement, and agreement is part of the private law, right? If you are a public, if there is a public institution or public of government body, they are supposed to be part of the public law, which is could be part of administrative law, it could be part of constitutional law, or yeah, mostly those law. But then when they comes to enter into an agreement, they are subject to the private law. So there are some private law which applies to this kind of public agreement, instead of some legal or some law, some regulation specifically regulated about their agreement. Until now, you get it, Rizal. I hope that you
Ma'am.
Yeah.
When I say the perikatan perorangan or individual obligation, so the obligation only involved to the parties which is individual. But in the public, in perikatan public, is it as of part of this obligation or just the government which as the involved to this
Okay.
this
Yeah,
perikatan?
okay, I got it. So it is the interest of government on behalf of public interest, of course. Like for instance, the agreement is between the, let's say, between the regional government with a private business of those who are having of developer, like someone who built the building, someone who construct building or whatever. And the agreement is to build the office, to build the regional government office. And of course, the regional government office is it is the building which aims for a public interest. So that's why in agreement which involve a public institution or government body, somehow it is regulated very strict. There are so many rules regarding this kind of public agreement. And yeah, so it involves not only individual interest, it involves government interest, but on behalf of public interest, of course. Yeah, so that's my explanation, Result.
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Okay, so until now, is there any other questions? No? No.
Yes, it's me, ma'am.
Yeah, please add.
Yeah, I have a question. How about what the difference between the public interest or and the individual?
Yeah. Sorry, can you repeat?
I mean that individual obligation and the public obligation. The public should be going to public interest, and the individual should be going to the private interest. So what the difference between the two of others?
Okay. The difference is basically again on the interest. If it's an individual agreement, yeah, of course, it's an interest of the parties. So that's very different with public agreement, which is involves way bigger and broader interest of society. So yeah, that's the most different interest at. Can you get it?
So you mean that the public interest is a daily activity of the social by the
Yeah.
people of the
It could
on the
be.
people.
It could be.
It could be.
It could be because there are so many public interest. You can talk about public health as public interest. You can talk about keeping a public moral as public interest, and so many public interests at the very at the end of the day. So yeah, it could be. Let's
So-
say I'm gonna give you an example like a garden.
Yes.
Yeah, garden is also a public interest. A public garden, public garden is also a public interest. And there was a case in Yogyakarta involving a corruption case, and it was initiated by this kind of agreement, only an agreement between government body with the private institution. So yeah, there are so many public interests.
I got it, ma'am. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. What about the others? Do you have any other questions? Okay. If you have no question now, you can ask me later on in WhatsApp group. It's okay. And I think I'm gonna finish the meeting for now. But still, you can ask me whenever you wanna ask. But I want you guys to search by your own about franchise agreement. You know, franchise agreement. In Bahasa, it is called as waralaba. Franchise agreement or waralaba. You can find it out. What do you have to find out is about what is it, the definition, and then examples, and then the purpose of franchise agreement and the type and whatever. So please try to find out what is franchise agreement or waralaba, and we're going to discuss this next week. Okay, am I clear?
Clear, ma'am.
Is it clear,
Okay.
ma'am?
Okay, thank you. So if you have no further question, I think I'm gonna finish our class now. Please just contact me whenever you want to contact me. And Adelson, please the Google Form link. And if you cannot fill your student number, please let me know soon.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Because I forgot I already entered your number now. So yeah, I think that's all from me. I'm so sorry that I cannot finish until 10:30, and I hope that won't be that won't be a very big problem for this day. Yeah, I think we can discuss later. And thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.